Hi, this is Southampton Town Supervisor Jay Schneiderman, and welcome to Talk of the Town. This is a new show, and this is the first edition. Here we're going to meet some of the people who help the town run. We'll learn about community groups and services the town has to offer. Today we're going to talk about the newest park in the town of Southampton, which is called Good Ground Park, and it's located in the heart of Hampton Bays. And I'm joined today by Deputy Supervisor Frank Sapone and our Municipal Works Director, Christine Fetton. Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. Thank you, Jay.
So, Good Ground Park, it's a 36-acre park.
Correct.
And it's just north of the area that people think of as downtown, right off of Squiretown Road. Frank, you've been working on it, I know, for about 3 years now, but the history goes back even further than that. So tell us a little bit about how this came into being.
Sure. The history of the park goes back to 2004, actually. We're following a town study known as the Hampton Bays Corridor Study. There was a recommendation that this parcel of land, then privately owned, be considered for parkland within the village of the hamlet of Hampton Bays. A community group took ownership of that recommendation and spearheaded an effort for the Community Preservation Fund to buy the entire 36-acre parcel with the hope that someday it would become a central park feature in the community. We began serious planning for the actual construction of the park in around 2013, when the then board set the goal of trying to seek grant funding to help subsidize the development of about 5 or 6 acres of the larger 36-acre parcel.
Now, Frank, this park, it's largely a woodland setting.
Correct.
There's beautiful trees in that area, and it has some unique features, right?
Yes.
So you want to tell us a little bit about what people will find in this park?
The most unique feature is the outdoor amphitheater that has been constructed. We discovered, with the help of a landscape architect that the town hired, that there was a natural topographic bowl in an ideal location to use that topography to create an amphitheater with natural seating around the perimeter of the amphitheater, and the topography allowed for that to be graduated, as you might find in a professionally constructed theater. And so architect came up with a design to build what are a combination of seating and retaining walls that graduate up the perimeter of the amphitheater with a stage at its central location and a seating capacity of anywhere between 800 and 1,200 people.
Wow. That's a lot of people.
That's an awful lot of people.
And so what the idea is to have theater in the park, music in the park.
And all kinds of professional performances. When we had the opening day on October 16th, we had children's musicians, we had a children's magician, we had rock and roll bands, we had a Frank Sinatra type performer there. We had a wide variety of performers throughout the day and into the early evening.
Well, I want to actually, we'll come back to opening day, because that was a big community celebration, but it took a lot of work to get to opening day.
Yes,
that goes back quite a number of years. Some of the early people who were involved, like Kevin McDonald, with this idea of creating this community park. So the town purchased the land, and it began designing the plans, involving the community in that plan. But there was a lot of engineering. And Christine, that's where you come in. You're our town engineer. You run the Municipal Works Department. And a capital project like this must have been enormous. So you've been living this project for quite some time. Can you talk a little bit about what was involved?
I would love to. The first phases of the project were challenging in the fact that we had a lot of land clearing to do to see what we were actually dealing with as the substrate to the project. We actually broke ground in November of 2015. We cleared the corridor area for the main access path and the cul-de-sac at the west end of the project, and we began taking shape to the site. The project has a lot of underground features that support its current state and its future state in terms of the utility infrastructure. So we started with the drainage and the water service, the water main, so that we can have connectivity for future loops if we need to, for future development. And then it expanded to the north areas where we were expanding into the construction of the physical amphitheater with the foundations associated with the stage, the construction of the amphitheater itself. The southeast side of the amphitheater seating is much more of a consistent radius pattern.
Sure.
Whereas the northwest portion was more field fit so that we could preserve some of the existing vegetation.
I see there's a lot of the trees that didn't get cut down. You kind of worked around some of the mature trees in that area?
That was our intent from the beginning, was to try and preserve the natural beauty of that site because it is quite impressive. And we had a couple of residents that came to visit us every day in the wildlife. There's quite a herd of deer that habitate on that site, including
Turkeys too. When on opening day, there was
turkeys.
lots of turkeys running around.
There's actually, there was an albino deer who had 2 offspring in the springtime that you
So that's gonna
you'll
now be a
see
tourist
quite
attraction,
frequently.
right?
Yes.
Like a petting zoo.
So,
Let me ask, a lot of times with these large capital projects, the most frequent questions are, was it on time and was it on budget? And that was kind of your job. Was it on time and was it on budget?
it went a little bit over our originally anticipated time for a few reasons, but it wasn't grossly off of the original budget.
And what about the budget itself?
The schedule. The budget, there was a couple of unforeseen items, like when we first cleared the site, there was some miscellaneous debris that we found that had been dumped over the years in the
Right.
site that we had to, excavate and get rid of
Sure.
so that we could do the actual construction. But overall, the budget remained, within that 5%
Oh,
rule,
good.
which was very nice. We had a very good contractor who also worked with us, with our construction management engineering firm, to do value engineering so that we
Sure.
could actually save some money.
So you were happy with the contractor and the finished product? Was it what you imagined it would be?
It was far greater, and it's seeing it go through the stage. It's an incredible gift to be able to see the park take shape from a vacant parcel, a forested parcel. And I think the opening day event was very rewarding,
Right.
just to see how it was constructed as it was envisioned to be, and to see the residents of the community enjoying it
Now
as
it's,
it was envisioned.
from a construction standpoint, it's not entirely done, right? So there's
Correct.
a couple more things that are going to be built there. Can you talk a little bit about those other elements?
I would love to. They're very exciting. We have a restroom that's going to be constructed in the next phase, and we have 2 playgrounds, a toddler playground and a children's age playground, which is about 5 to 7 years of age,
Okay.
and the interconnecting sidewalks and paths to get to each one of those features is going to be included in the next phase.
And the street lights are in, right? The street lamps mostly?
To accommodate budget, as we were going through, we had put the first half of the lighting that was installed. We're actually revisiting the balance of the lighting because the first phase lighting was so effective.
And then picnic tables, there's a number of picnic tables. I think there are some park benches. Some of that is already in.
Yes, unfortunately, the park benches and the trash receptacles that were originally designed
Right.
for the project weren't delivered in time for the grand opening event, so they were
Right.
installed later. So there's a number of new features that were installed after the community event, including the benches and the trash receptacles. The next phase will add on that,
And there'll be
onto
some
that.
trails, there's a bike trail and a walking trail, is that correct?
Those are in future phases
Okay.
of the park development, and I believe that that's going to also entail more community involvement with the Parks and Trails group, just to lay them out in a
Right.
sensible manner, to also consider the topography in that park. It's very beautiful, and there would be another bicycle emergency access path
And there'll also
that it would
be,
extend to the
as I
north.
understand it, right now you can enter from Squiretown Road. That's where
Correct.
vehicles, I'm sorry?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, and you can also by foot, pedestrians can enter by the Vince Canuzio Trail, which goes right from downtown, right to the park. It's a beautiful walk. But there's going to be at least one other entrance to the park.
Right.
Frank, you want to talk about that? main pedestrian
Sure.
thoroughfare?
That will become the main pedestrian entrance to the park. It's centrally located on Main Street or Montauk Highway, directly across the street from the fire station that's on Main Street. It'll be at its widest point about 70 feet wide and taper off to about a 50-foot wide path that goes directly from Main Street into what we've designated as the main plaza of the park. So as you enter from Main Street, walk down what we hope will be a very lovely setting, you will enter the park at the point where you'll be in front of the amphitheater and a future pergola that will shade a seating area at that point. So it'll bring you to the central location of the park and provide that direct connection. But it'll be a pedestrian-only pathway to bring foot traffic in and out of the park from that main point. And we hope that that will be the primary entrance and exit point, so that people are in the downtown, into the park, and back into the downtown, because we want to create that flow of foot
Sure.
traffic in and out of the park.
It sounds like a beautiful park. I want to get into opening day and that celebration, but I want to take a quick break, show some images of the park. I want to thank Christine Fenton, our town engineer and municipal works director, for coming on the show. And I'm going to bring in Kristen Doulos, who's going to talk, she's our parks director, and we're going to talk a little bit more about opening day and the future of the park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, welcome back to Talk of the Town. We are now joined by Kristen Doulos. She is our Parks Director. Welcome, Kristen.
Thank you.
And so you're from Hampton Bays, right? You grew up in that area?
Yes, I grew up, went to school in Hampton Bays, and continue to live there now.
So you must be pretty excited about having this new park in your home area.
Extremely excited, as are many of my friends I grew up with and neighbors. Yes.
You know, Southampton has a lot of parks, more than probably most towns. Over 30 or?
At least over 30 that we consider park properties. Some are more developed than others, that include the playgrounds, the ball fields, but we counted at 36.
But we probably don't have too many with amphitheaters, right? And certainly none with an amphitheater of this size.
Correct.
Right.
This is the only one.
So, I mean, a number of questions come to mind, like what's involved with taking care of, maintaining a park like this. So why don't we start with that? And then I'd love to go back to the opening day, which was like our trial run for the park, and see what worked, what didn't work. So, but what do you need to maintain a park of this size?
It's various amounts, various different types of work, because there are some ornamental plantings there. We'll obviously have to cut the grass. The amphitheater itself is tiered and will require some handheld cutting. You would have the restroom maintenance, irrigation maintenance. There's the roadway that leads in that would require street sweeping and any maintenance, garbage removal. So there's quite a lot of aspects to it.
Now, is there going to be an attendant there or some of the time, or
Yes.
how's that going to work?
We'd like to have an attendant there at least seasonally. So they would be there probably anywhere from like April through November to be on
Okay.
site, yes.
And-
Pick up garbage, keep an eye on the park.
Now, at night, the park is closing? How does that work? Or some nights?
Yes, we would probably keep it fairly consistent with our other parks, which are dawn till dusk.
Sure.
In the summertime, if there's a special event or concert, obviously we may go over that time.
Now, how do we decide who performs there, what types of performances? Or do we have somebody within the Parks Department, or are you working with the community? How is that being determined?
I think in the near future, our department will probably handle the scheduling of the entertainment, but I think it's envisioned that we would eventually work with the community or a community group who would kind of help take on some of that. And we're really looking to bring an eclectic mix of cultural and recreational, musical events there. So we're not looking at just having a rock and roll band. We'd really like to have maybe a ballet performance, chamber music, Shakespeare in the park, have like a nice variety of events for people to enjoy.
I
Now,
think-
Jerry, I was going to say, opening ceremony, you sort of served as the master of ceremonies,
Sort
so
of,
to
yeah.
speak. So you were involved with planning the musical entertainment for that as well? You want
Yes,
to talk a little bit about that?
and I do, because Kristen made a very important point. You know, it's a unique park, and because it's a unique setting, we want to try to bring the kind of performances that you really can't go elsewhere outdoors to see, so that the community members have an option. I mean, there are a lot of lovely things that are done in East Quogue and Sag Harbor and Southampton Village and other places, and those are all wonderful. We want to complement those activities. So opening day, what we thought was, we had two objectives. One, we wanted to be eclectic in the kinds of performances that we put there, and we really wanted to try to fulfill the mission of the park, which was to be of service to all ages and all age groups in the community. So we had performances for young children, we had a magician and a musician designed for young children, and then we had performers who are more suitable to gray-haired gentlemen like myself. And I think it worked out very, very well. We did draw, by conservative estimates, over 2,000 people
2,000 people came.
to the park during the course of the day, and it was a short day,
And
11 a.m.
a lot of those 2,000 were children, too.
At one point, I went around and did an actual head count.
I saw the line at the face painter, which went on, I want to say, at least 100 kids deep.
Well, Kristen and I and others were there 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening, closing down the park, and there were still people online waiting to get their face painted. But I did go around, and the measure that I used is anybody who was shorter than my belt line, I counted them. And at one point in the middle part of the day, I counted about 75 children who fit that criteria. I don't know how old they were, but that was one of the missions of the park, that we want to create a real community-friendly, and that's the purpose of the two playgrounds. We want moms and dads to walk into the park during the day with a stroller and bring their kids in and feel safe and comfortable and enjoy the setting. And I think that, to go back to something Kristen and both Christine said as well, we want to improve the facility, but we want the setting to remain as natural as possible.
Sure.
So it's the road that's cut in has a hill and valley to it, because that's the nature of the topography. We did very little earth moving. We built on the land that was there, and I think that adds to the beauty of the park.
Real quick, the town was obviously very involved with this park being created, but we also had some help, didn't we, from the state? Can you mention a little bit about some of the grants?
Absolutely.
We
We had not only help from the state, but also help from our community members who helped strengthen our state applications. We made several grant applications to the state, 3 in fact, and I'm pleased to say that every single one of them was successful. We had a planning grant for about $250,000 that helped us hire the landscape architect who designed the park and work with the community on the charrettes that created the features that we now see in the park. Then we had 2 construction grants, one of about $960,000 for the construction of the park, also from the state, and then a subsequent grant for an additional $400,000 also to supplement the construction of the grant. So there was a substantial.
So we owe a debt of
amount.
gratitude to Assemblyman Fred Thiel and State Senator Ken LaValle for assisting in securing that money.
Both in securing that money and subsequent funding that they are seeking now for next phases of the grant through member grants that they have access to. And both were there on opening day, the senator and the assemblyman, and have been on every step extremely supportive.
So opening day was a great success. So now we look to the future, because we shut the park right after opening day. So, Kristen, when are we reopening the park? Do we have a sense?
We don't have a firm date, but we certainly anticipate in the spring.
in the spring. Will we have the bathroom or maybe temporary restroom facilities?
There will be some sort of restroom facility there. It would likely be a temporary one for the time being, but it'll be a very nice temporary bathroom.
Because people got so excited with opening day, and then they found that the park's closed, and
Yeah.
they wanted to go back, and they couldn't go back. So
Well, and I
the
just-
springtime, it'll be open to the public?
Yes.
Yeah, and Kristen is correct. We feel confident that both of the children's playgrounds, as we envision them, will be in place by the late spring. The comfort station presents other challenges. You have the health department regulations that you have to abide by, and
Sure.
that process sometimes can be time-consuming. But we will have some kind of facility for community use when the park opens in the spring. The other thing I wanted to mention, Jay, is that because it is open and very accessible, we want to be sure that it's a safe place for people to go. And one of the reasons why we temporarily closed the park is we are implementing some protocols with our local police department to maintain safety, and we are working with installing some surveillance equipment so that families and children that come to the park can feel that it is a safe place for them to go. And also for the members of the community who live immediately around the park. We want to assure them
just-
that it's not a nuisance.
Now, if somebody wants more information about this park, or if they want more information about any of our park facilities, whether it's ball fields, tennis courts, basketball, whatever it might be, do you have a number, or should we go to the website? How should they find out?
Either or. We actually have a lot of great information on the website, including a brochure of all of our facilities, any rental fees, ball field rentals, all of that sort of thing. And that's on the town's website.
We'll try to run the website address.
Okay. And then our phone number at the Parks and Recreation Department is 631-728-8585. And, our staff is very helpful there, so
Okay.
help answer any
I did
questions.
want to give a statement of gratitude to the community group that's been very much a part of this planning process, Jay. Back in 2013, the Dentown Board created the Hampton Bays Economic Development Committee, which has representatives from all of the civic groups, from the school district, and from a host of community organizations. And they've been integral to the planning, not only of the opening day, but every step along the way.
That's great.
and-
Anybody in particular you want to point out?
Well, you mentioned Kevin McDonald and
Susan
Susan
Von
Von Freddy
Freddy.
and Janice Landis and Marion Bowden, Michael Dunn. There's just a number of people that I can't think of everybody to thank. Some of the local merchants, Simone Scotto, the president of the Chamber of Commerce, and we've had representatives of our board members. Councilman Glinka and Councilwoman Scalera have played an active role as
Sure.
well. So we've had a broad range of people providing support and opinion, and sometimes justified criticism of how we were going about it, and it
Well,
make the process
I think the
wonderful.
park is a real success. I think it's going to be a wonderful thing for generations to come. I'm looking forward to the springtime and seeing it open to the public, and I'll see you guys there. But I want to thank you for coming on the show today. Kristen,
Thank you for having
so
me.
much.
I
Frank.
think we might have room for a drumming activity there.
We'll see.
Thank you.
There you go. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jay.
All right. Thank you for watching Talk of the Town. We'll see you next time.